to the regular board meeting of Thursday, March 13th, 2025. I would like to call this meeting to order. It is 1:03, and I would also like to acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District is within the territories of the Shishal and Squamish Nations. Welcome, everybody. We have some fresh faces today. A lot of our directors are at LGLA, which is a Local Government Leadership Academy conference. So we are lucky to have some alternate directors here today. So welcome, one and all, and welcome, staff. We have an agenda before us. Would any of the directors or alternate directors want to make any changes to the agenda?
No, I'd like to move it.
Well, moved by Director White and seconded by alternate Director Nguyen. All in favor? Any opposed? That passes. Wonderful. We do have an agenda. We'll move on to minutes. We have the regular board meeting minutes of February 27th, 2025. Are there any omissions or corrections needed in those minutes?
Move adoption.
Director White moves adoption. Can I get a seconder? Alternate Director Alexander, thank you very much. All in favor of adoption of minutes? Any opposed? That passes. We now have the parcel tax roll review minutes of February 27th, 2025. That's an easy one. Anyone want to move that one? Director White, seconder. Alternate Director Alexander, wonderful. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes. Okay, we do not have any business arising, no presentations or delegations, so we'll move on to reports. And before we move on to 6.1, I will let our CAO talk a little bit about the new report template that we got this week.
Thank you, Chair. So you will see on today's agenda that there is a change or improvement to our standard report templates for staff reports. And so some of the highlights to bring to your attention that have been changed within this template compared to the ones we're using in the past is a centralized focus on what the purpose statement of the report and more of an executive summary at the start of the report template. So from a decision-making process, hopefully that'll bring moving business along a lot quicker. There are several improvements within the template, including things like clarifying the recommendations also in there and really what the objective for the decision makers is. So is it to add some more information or clarification, or perhaps it's not necessarily for information, but then no decision is required. So that's a slight change based on our information reports of the past. And again, we welcome any feedback. This is a new template. It's to support the board and the committee in their decision making. So if there's any suggested improvements, by all means, welcome any feedback that you might have. Thank you. And I also, sorry, one more thing, Chair. I do want to say a big thank you to our corporate and administrative services, our corporate officer. There was a large training and undertaking with staff, and so it was very well received, including, board etiquette and things to just be mindful on staff's role in the boardroom. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for this introduction to the new report template. So with that, we'll move on to 6.1 and we can have a look at this new template. Vertical expansion and waste export feasibility study and vertical expansion engineering contract amendment. That's on page 17. It is voting all, and we have Manager Sol here. If you would like to introduce this report, we would be grateful.
Hi, thank you. So before you have a report with a request for decision on a contract amendment to our contract with Sperling Hansen Associates, who are doing our vertical expansion and waste export feasibility studies. This work is for additional survey work at the landfill to confirm the feasibility of a vertical expansion, as well as engagement with the Shishal Nation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Do directors or alternate directors have any questions that need the answer to in order to make their decision? Oh, alternate Director Nguyen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And the question I have is under financial implications. The approved contract plus contingency And I'd like to know, or maybe it can be shown, what is that contingency amount? Because and I'll have a few questions today about contingencies. And so the contingency value, is it a percentage? And in this particular case, how much is that contingency? And how do we determine what the contingency is, especially if we're looking at alternative sourcing?
Is this, wondering who would be the, oh, Manager Sol, if you could answer, that'd be great.
Thank you. So typically with solid waste projects, at least, we target 15 to 20% of the value as contingency. So in the case of this project, given that it is extremely time sensitive and critical to determining our next disposal option for waste on the coast, the contingency is 20% or just under $31,000 in the case of this particular contract.
Thank you very much for that. If there are no other questions, I'll just look for a motion.
One more
Oh,
question.
one more question, Director Witt.
And the other question I have is, I note in the discussion part of this report that the Sechelt Nation has requested involvement in the development, which has meant that there's a little bit more scope creep to it, and that it's involving a bit more work on the part of staff and whatnot. So my question, I guess, is how can, and I wish the Sechelt Nation was here today to maybe answer the question as to how can they be involved sooner in the process so that they're not coming in kind of late and then finding out that things have to go backwards a little bit in order to include their involvement and development.
Great, and I see that GM Rosenboom has his hand up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. One of the, as everybody is aware, the landfill is located next to the mine, and one of the boundary conditions for this work is that none of the, as part of the feasibility study, it is to be confirmed that we should be able to construct a wall to allow for vertical expansion without having any impacts to the mine operations, current or future. And in our conversations with the nation on this project, they requested to have their technical people reconfirm the assessments done by our consultants to confirm that that is indeed not the case. So we have been in contact with them, and throughout the process, they ask for engineering to engineering consultation, and that's why this project now has some capacity for our consultant to actually engage with the engineering consultants from the nation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, GM Rosenboom. Alternate Director Alexander.
I was going to move the recommendations.
And I have a seconder with Director McMahon. Any further questions? I don't see any hands, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Opposed by Director White? Would you like this recorded?
Yeah.
Recorded. Yes, alternate Director Shepherd?
If I could ask why the opposition, just from Mayor White, thanks.
Director White?
Sorry, I mean, yeah, there was no opportunity to have any discussion or debate. It was only questions, so I didn't get a chance to state that. The town of Gibsons is just really disappointed. I mean, we've had some discussions about it in progress in the strategic planning with solid waste. We had a workshop at the board, and there was no chance for actual board discussion in talking about future options, and it hasn't happened yet. We're more than halfway through the term, and yeah, we're disappointed. We'd like to look at all the options and actually have some robust board conversation on where we're going with solid waste. And this was, I mean, I've heard from councillors, this should have been done many years ago. So,
Thank you, Director White. And just so everybody's clear, when I ask for questions, I'm also very much open to comments and debate. I believe there is a date for, no, I can't find it. There will be a report coming. Staff will bring forward an update to the board at the March 27th board meeting on the solid waste management plan and the current timelines for public engagement and consideration for completion of this feasibility study. Okay, that's not what I thought, but will there be opportunities to have more strategic discussions on the solid waste management plan? And if so, when will that take place? Manager Sol?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the plan currently is to sort of put out our proposed initiatives to the public over the summer, which that report coming on March 27th will kind of outlay, and there will be an opportunity then if the board wanted to speak to any of those initiatives, they could. One of the things holding up the solid waste management plan is determining our next long-term disposal option, of which these feasibility studies are critical for that. So once these feasibility studies are complete, the board will get a full presentation from our consultant. It'll include a business case analysis between the two options, and there'll be opportunity for the board to make a decision at that point on what the direction is for the waste on the coast. And then that decision will be incorporated into the solid waste management plan. We will complete a draft of the plan, including that long-term disposal option, and then the board will have an ability to comment on the entire draft at that point, which will hopefully occur sometime in the fall of this year.
Thank you for that. And basically, this allows staff to gather more information so that we can have that discussion about the best strategy forward. All right. Okay, so that was 6.1. So we're going to move to 6.2, which is contract extension, corporate recycling services. That is on page 20. Voting all directors. Oh, hello there. I don't see a nameplate. I'm sorry. I would. Hi. I'm assuming you're here to introduce this report? Okay, great. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. We are requesting to extend the pickup service and disposal of our corporate recycling as well as food waste at 13 of our facilities. I am happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Alternate Director Alexander. Yes.
Thank you, and through the chair, I just wondered if staff could expand at all on option 2. There's reference to breach of contract potential. So I was hoping before we made a decision to hear a little more on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alternate Director. My understanding is that when there is an option to extend, you need to have a very strong rationale as to why you wouldn't extend the contract. So I think that's what it is, but I will go back to staff for a real answer.
Thank you for the question. Contracts with explicit renewal clauses can be interpreted based on established principles, such as the duty of good faith, clear communication, and specific language within the agreement, of which the impact the enforceability and interpretation of the renewal clause. So when we signed the original agreement, we had implied that there would be an extension unless there was some sort of measure that was not met, such as performance issues or the contractor was unable to perform the services.
That works. Okay. And Director McMahon?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. I'm coming from this lovely hotel room in Richmond. I was just wondering which of our facilities, I think you said 13 facilities, so I'm guessing that is the recreation centers and our head office and community halls? Which facilities?
Thank you for the question. I do not have the list of all 13 facilities in front of me at this point in time, accept my apologies. But it does also include our utilities, Mason Road division as well, the Seashell landfill, and some of our commercial waste done, I believe, at Pender Harbor as well, so.
Thank you, and I'm assuming this building as well. If I don't, there are no further hands, so I will look for a motion. If I can, oh, Alternate Director Shepherd, thank you very much.
I'll move the recommendations on page, all three recommendations on page 20.
Thank you very much. Can I get a seconder for that? Director McMahon, thank you very much. If there are no further discussion or questions, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? And that passes. Okay, moving on to 6.3, Contract Award 911 Preventative Maintenance. That's a interesting one, and I'm hoping for a little preamble by staff on that one. It is voting all directors, and it is on page 22 for those following along. Who would like to introduce this? Manager Bellerby.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to present a report for contract award for 911 preventative maintenance. I have prepared the report. I'll present the report with the understanding that the previous owner of this project was GM Hall. That's why he sat beside me. So I am trying to take over the project and take it to the finish line. So a little bit of background. Presumably there will be questions regarding why there was 2 RFPs not issued. This was due to a limited pool of potential contractors who could perform the upgrades. And over the term of the previous agreements, there have been multiple capital purchases that occur for replacement of existing equipment and configuration changes. These have historically been done via individual quoting practices, which is a common occurrence throughout the province too. And also just to note that the $1 million capital upgrades is for new radio equipment relocation, and some configuration changes. All of these will be handed over to the preventative maintenance contractor to inventory and maintain in future.
Great. Thank you very much. And am I correct to think that there's a bit of a timing because the RFP went out before the budget was adopted, and so that budget proposal for the antenna had not yet been approved? And would that be why it was an option as opposed to a concrete element of the RFP?
Thank you for the question, Chair. So the scope of work that will be done through this is regular preventative maintenance to radio systems and the replacement of radio equipment that's at end of life. There's no capital construction involved in this project. We do have a separate project involving the reconstruction of a communications tower. And in terms of timing on this, the scope of the tender that was released was responsive to our need to ensure continuity for preventative maintenance, and the award of any capital work is solely at our discretion, and so issuing that prior to budget adoption didn't bind us in any way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director White.
I move the recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded by Alternate Director Shepherd. Did you have a question, Alternate Director Shepherd? Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, just, it's my confusion over the budgeting. Was there a budget of $1 million for 2 years, but the contract is 5 years for $1,150,000 or?
Staff could straighten us out.
Thank you, Chair. So the preventative maintenance term of contract is a total of 5 years. It's, I believe, framed as 3 years plus an additional optional 2. A longer term is often used for preventative maintenance contracts to promote familiarity, efficiency, and service continuity. The capital project that was approved by the board as part of the 2025 budget is to be delivered in 2 years. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. All good? Yeah. Alternate Director Nguyen?
Thank you, Chair. So I'm still a little confused because in the section financial implications, it says capital work would be subsequently awarded following a structured quotation process. So is that an RFP process just for that, or is it? I'm still confused as to, is there one RFP, two RFPs, and also in the actual recommendation, it's called a preventative maintenance contract and a number for 1.13 million. The recommendation doesn't mention capital works.
Care
Clarification,
to
please.
clarify, please, staff?
Absolutely, Chair. As structured, SERD does not intend to issue a second RFP. If circumstances, market circumstances, et cetera, make it advisable that we do that in order to achieve best value, we have that option available to us. We are not committed to this vendor. And if there's a desire to amend the wording of the recommendations for additional clarity, staff don't object to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alternate Director Nguyen, did you want to make any amendments to the recommendation for clarity, or?
Yes. Probably on the fly here that the 9/11 preventative maintenance contract, preventative maintenance and capital works contract.
Let's just take a 5-minute break and try to come up with something
Okay.
that works. We'll be back in 5 minutes. So we do have a potential amendment here. Alternate Director Wynne?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I put forward an amendment to this motion. It's already been passed but not adopted. And so this is in order to, the recommendation to read a little bit better for public transparency and accountability is that at the end of number 1, just after it says for a term of 5 years, that we add for preventative maintenance and additional capital works.
All right, so that amendment has been moved. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Alternate Director Alexander, thank you very much. Are there any discussion, questions about the amendment? Yes, Alternate Director Shepherd?
Just to clarify with staff or through the chair, that's not going to be a problem with the contract draft as drafted? Or is it?
Staff can confirm that that will not be a problem. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Are we ready to vote? Okay, so asking the question on the amendment, all in favor? 3, 4. Any opposed? Director White opposes. Would you like that recorded? That's recorded. Okay, so we have that passed. We have an amended motion to vote on. Any further questions? Director Wynne, is your hand residual?
Thank you. One further question, again on contingency, because this is a 5-year maintenance contract, what's the typical contingency that would go along with that? Is it, does it work on escalating, given the cost of everything going up so rapidly? How do you determine a good contingency, and will there be a chance that the company getting this contract would come back after an amount of time and say, we can't do it for that, which is we're seeing more and more of.
GM Hall, would you like to take a stab at that one?
Thank you, Chair. On the preventative maintenance side, a 19% contingency was included based on a historical average. And the labor costs that are involved here are specified for the coming years. So there's some degree of certainty. Equipment costs could change. Thanks.
Thank you, staff. Okay. All that being said, we have a motion on the floor, amended motion. I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Director White opposes. Okay. That takes us to communications. We don't have any. So straight to motions. We have the motion for which notice has been given regarding a response to U.S. tariffs, and I did put that motion forward, so I will speak to it. I do not need to read it, correct? It is already printed. Everybody can see it. Excellent. And I do love a good acronym, so I want to thank Alternate Director Alexander for coming up with BRAT, Border Response to American Tariffs. Looks like we have another BRAT summer ahead of us. This is an unusual motion for this table, but I do feel like it's necessary to join the many local governments who have done something similar. The SCRD is, bottom line, we're a service provider, so it does feel a bit strange to delve into international politics, but I do believe that local governments can and should play a pivotal role in preparing our communities for the impacts of a trade war with our neighbors to the south. So FCM and UBCM are working to offer support to local governments in different ways, but so far there's no clear roadmap, so we have to make one that fits our needs and our capacity. So what I'm proposing through this motion is sort of a three-pronged approach to address the tariffs and aggression coming from the U.S., which is to prepare, respond, and mobilize. And the overall goal of the recommendations in front of you is for the SCRD to prepare for potential economic challenges, to respond proactively to the threats coming from the US. And as community leaders, and that's maybe a little aside the motion, but as community leaders, I do believe that we also have the opportunity to mobilize our communities in order to build resilience and support each other during uncertain times. And I do need to clarify a little bit. There was some confusion with the wording of the second to last and that, where we talk about convening a group to explore opportunities for collaboration, including initiating and promoting a new targeted buy local, buy Canadian campaign. So the intent is not to prescribe that as an action that the group has to take. It's more an example of what we could do together. So it's something an idea to explore in that meeting. So it's not a prescription for an action. And that is an ask to the chair and vice chair, so there's no staff. The staff time is with the providing a report with the high-level environmental scan, but the other one with the convening a meeting is going to be board chair and vice chair. So no staff time there. Okay, I see hands. Director White.
I guess, yeah, I'll start by asking staff what the interpretation of staff would be to do this environmental scan, and I'm concerned about capacity to do it too, where it would fit into the work plan, and who would do it. I mean, it's kind of, we've got all our functions, and this is, I don't know where this fits into them, so I guess it's more corporate. But just wondering if staff could comment on how they would go about doing this environmental scan.
Okay, thank you. CAO, could you speak to that?
Thank you, Chair. So staff have already begun that scan, and I think one of the aspects of any project is really any risk associated to it. So this would be one of the risks that we have to contemplate as part of each project or type of service delivery that we have. So most certainly the senior management team and our procurement team, as well as other key project managers, have been keeping an eye out from our procurement specialist and risk management. They have been keeping track of the ever-moving targets related to what the environment is, especially for local government. So even FCM has moderated depending on what's happening there. And so what the role of the local government is, I think it'll be helpful to provide a staff report publicly to really understand and even communicate publicly what the implication to local governments is and what is within our realm of influence or control, and what we can actually do in this particular case, understanding that there's always a political lens and a business lens, so separating those. So I think those would be helpful. From a capacity standpoint, I don't see this as a significant undertaking as of yet. Our procurement team, I think, is most certainly leading the charge, and so what that scan will be to the degree or extent of what we need to do from an undertaking, once we know more information, we can always report back as part of that report if there's any moderation we need to do as far as a further undertaking.
Great, thank you very much. Happy to hear that that work is already underway. And I do think that that information is very critical. Like, we need to have the knowledge so we can integrate that into our decision-making, since it's going to have many impacts. I do see Director McMahon's hand.
Thank you. I'm aware that UBCM hosted a roundtable on tariffs on Tuesday, and I was wondering if any of the electeds here or the staff had attended that, and if so, were there any takeaways from that? Because we know this is looming, but we don't have many specifics yet.
Yeah, Director McMahon, I think, well, perhaps Director White did, but I know that Chair Toth also attended. Yes, please go ahead.
I had a direct question for Director McMahon. Is that the one that the provincial government was involved in? I received an invite from 2 ministers. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but
Sorry,
I'm
it may
just
be in the
questioning.
province. It may be in the province and not UBCM. I'd have to go
Okay.
back and look at my email.
Yeah, I had a conflict, so I wasn't able to attend, but
Yeah,
I think I got an invite from the province.
Yeah, so it was, I believe it was Minister Brittany Anderson, Minister Callan, and Trish Mandero, the president of UBCM. And so, yes, Director Toth, Chair Toth attended, and we could definitely ask him to give us a little report back. Alternate Director Alexander.
Just wanted to voice support from Area A for this motion, and again, through the chair to staff, that procurement is well underway in looking at this, and thank you for that.
Great, thank you. Alternate Director Nguyen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I did talk to Director Stanford at length about this, and of course she's very supportive of it from Area F, as am I. And I did have to ask the question about in what an environmental scan is, and my mind was into air, land, and water, not necessarily the broader picture of our environment. So, so I do thank Chair Gabius for pointing me to the Government of Canada website on risk management essentials and how to conduct an environmental scan. So that was very informative. Thank you very much. Certainly supportive of this.
Great. I don't think the motion has been seconded yet. Maybe we should do that. Director McMahon, thank you very much. Okay. Any further discussion or questions on the motion? Is it your hand is residual? Yeah? Okay, great. So then I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That passes. Thank you very much. So that was motion number 1. We do have a couple more to go. We have a motion regarding Area A Advisory Planning Commission's APC reappointment. Alternate Director Alexander?
Could I please move the motion?
You absolutely can. And I have Director White as a seconder. Excellent. Any questions, concerns, discussion? So I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That passes. And in our last motion, voting all directors, motion regarding rescheduling of April 10th, 2025 regular board meeting, and that is to accommodate travel to AVICC. So we'll be changing the time from 1 p.m. to 11:30 a.m. to allow for, to reduce stress on directors who are traveling. Director McMahon.
And I apologize here. I'm referring to the previous motion, but the previous motion was voting electoral area directors, and it was seconded by a Muni director.
Aha, thank you for that, for catching that. Oh, well, Director Nguyen says he already also seconded, so do we need to redo? No? Okay, we're still good. Thank you, Director McMahon, for catching this. So no action necessary on this. Okay. So, motion 8.3. Can I get a mover?
I will so move.
Thank you, Alternate Director Alexander. Can I get a seconder? Alternate Director Nguyen, thank you very much. Any questions, concerns, discussion on this motion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, and don't show up late. Excellent. So no bylaws. Ooh, director's reports. Okay. Alternate Director Alexander, how about you get us started?
I will get us started. I'll speak really fast. A couple of things that that Director Lee asked me to bring forward. Exciting things going on in our community. March 31st, our local harbor authority has its AGM. Also, we are doing there will be a broom disposal opportunity for Pender Harbor residents in Pender Harbor through our fire department. More information is available in Pender Harbor on that. April 26th, April Tools. If you haven't been, you want to show up for that. It's exciting action on the water. And we did want to promote that there is a new date for Pender Harbor Days. So rather than the August long weekend, instead it will take place August 8, 9, 10. That includes our wooden boat show, that includes the Malaspina Regatta, and that will also include the Rotary Sunday Classic Car Show. So lots for this summer in Pender. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, Pender is always hopping. Great, thank you very much. Alternate Director Shepherd, anything for us?
I'm not quite sure what's relevant to hear for what's going on in Sechelt, but I will mention that the Sechelt Planning Department just had their public meeting for releasing their active transportation report. They have a draft and they're soliciting public input for it, but it's a fairly extensive long-term plan, and anyone interested is free to go onto our site to look at it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Alternate Director Wynne, anything going on in Howe Sound?
Oh, yes. I didn't get a report from Director Stamford, but I know that she's been working with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit on road work for stormwater runoff at Grantham's Landing. Some work has been done, and there's lots more that has to be done. Of course, climate change and a lot of water that runs down through Grantham's Landing has always been a problem and continues to increase. Also, abandoned and derelict vessels in Howe Sound. There's been another 2 large barges that have sunk in Andes Bay in West Howe Sound, and unfortunately, one of them a couple of weeks ago released a vast amount of styrofoam and marine debris that's now floating around. It probably will make its way to Gibson's and Hopkins and Keats and everywhere. So we continue to struggle with abandoned and derelict vessels and seek for support from DFO, Transport Canada, Coast Guard, provincial government where they could help. And of course it's springtime, so it's time to do another survey of coastline to find out what the winter storms have washed up on shore and what the problems are that communities are going to be facing this year with all of that. And that's about it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Director McMahon,
Thank
any
you.
report from you?
Yes, well, the top of the news in Area E is, of course, roads, the speed reduction on promised coming soon speed reduction on the highway going through Elphinstone, and the 4-way stop at Chester and Pratt, which was hugely popular with the community. So I'd like to thank the province and our MLA for making that happen. Long overdue, but a step in the right direction. And on last week, I attended the online legislative reform workshop with legal expert Don Lidstone. That was a really interesting workshop. I have to say, it's a complex topic. All of the elected directors have been sent a survey, and also staff are welcome to complete the survey on our priorities for legislative reform. And it is a long survey and it's pretty complicated, but I urge everybody to take a really good look at that, because this is our first opportunity to tinker with vastly outdated legislation, or not even tinker, overhaul vastly outdated legislation. And I also very much appreciated the remarks about the fact that the Ministry of Transportation's approving officers do not take into account the public interest the same way that municipal approving officers do. It's the reality. It may not be the way it was written in the law or anything, but it's the way the system works, and it's severely disadvantageous to rural areas in the province. And so we need the ability to take on approving authority if we wish to. Not every regional district would want to. And we, as a regional district, would have to, examine our options, but I think it's something that should be discussed. Last night, or the night before last, rather, held a little appreciation evening with my APC to chat about neighborhood concerns and welcome a couple of new members to the APC. And that was a wonderful evening with a really good, lively conversation. And finally, for those of you who are nerds, I want to bring to your attention that there is a Scrabble tournament coming up at the Gibsons Public Library on Saturday, March 22nd from 10 to 4. If you like Scrabble, you need to sign up for this tournament. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Director McMahon. Alternate Director Hardy, do you have a report from Roberts Creek?
Hi there. Director Bax did not ask me to convey anything to the group, but I will say on Sunday, last Sunday, March 9th, we held a disaster preparedness event at the hall for individual households and neighbors to get together to support each other in the event of disaster. And we had standing room only. Probably 160 people show up, so very well attended, a lot of interest with events of late, probably encouraging that. So that's going to be a continued effort to support neighbors supporting each other. And then looking forward to note for everybody, Earth Day in Roberts Creek this year is April 27th. So a good opportunity to mingle and maybe talk OCP project renewal casually, or however formally we might want to. That event is typically attended by people from across the coast, so encourage people to join. That's it for me.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yes, that emergency preparedness, I guess call it a meeting, workshop at the Roberts Creek Hall. So happy to see those kinds of grassroots initiatives popping up. I think we need to come together and take care of each other more than ever, it seems. Okay, and I'm not snubbing Director White. He told me to skip over, so I will finish with mine. I also attended while working the legislative reform webinar. I'm really looking forward to speaking with Director McMahon further about that webinar. I was able to catch, and there's so much good stuff. It was hard to it's hard to keep track of all the great questions and comments during that meeting. And Don Lidstone is just always goes straight to the point, great knowledge, good straightforward answers. And last Friday I was at High Ground, so I attended the High Ground conference for just one day. This is my second year going to High Ground, and I have to say I really enjoyed it, and I felt like it was very much worth it. Smaller conference than we're used to, smaller than AVIC or LGLA or UBCM, of course. That is very conducive to networking and sharing ideas, and it's mostly talking about progressive policy. And some highlights, the Canadian Mental Health Association came and hosted a pre-conference workshop, and one of my takeaways is the peer-assisted care teams that have been deployed. There's, I think, 6 happening in BC right now, and they're looking at adding 4 to the network, and they seem to be quite successful so far. There was a fireside chat with Minister Brittany Anderson and MP George Anderson, and the discussion was kind of fireplace chat, fireside chat, and but the discussion focused a lot on the tariffs coming from America. And Minister Brittany Anderson is part of NWAR, which is the PNWAR, Pacific Northwest. So it's the Canadian provinces and states in the U.S. and the Pacific Northwest who work together, and there was some really good some successful discussion there, and there's she seemed pretty hopeful of the collaboration happening. And also, there was a Youth Climate Corps hosted a session on eco-anxiety and youth engagement, which I'm a big fan of their work. And there's work starting at Connor Park on the new Half Moon Bay Hall. So this is finally happening. Signs have gone up and the work is going to start. And I really want to take a moment to thank staff. This has been a long road. It's been complex, but they've kept at it, and I'm so grateful. This is going to be a game changer for Half Moon Bay. The excitement is building, and I really want to thank all the community that got involved in getting feedback, and I'm really looking forward to that groundbreaking. That being said, that's my report. There's no new business, no in camera, no release of items from in camera, or is there? No. So then that takes us to adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting? Moved by Alternate Director Nguyen, seconded by Alternate Director Shepherd. Thank you very much. All in favor of adjourning? Excellent. And are there any questions from the gallery? We have no one here in person. Does anyone online want to ask a question? I do not see a hand. So let's close this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.